Oh, sure. Just look back 1 year to Kendrick Lamar and his performance during Super Bowl, during that Super Bowl. Then the issue, I think, was more here's a rapper, here's a rapper who's sort of embroiled in a battle with another performer. He's making allegations about that performer in some of his songs. Should the NFL be associated with a style of music that has often been criticized for being violent or for being misogynist? There were a lot of questions that came up then, and similar to Bad Bunny, there were a lot of people in this sort of gigantic mainstream audience that didn't really know Kendrick Lamar, didn't really know his music, didn't really know the hip hop culture that he was coming from. And so they were struggling to sort of understand what they were seeing. But I also think, in a very similar way, they were entertained and they realized that it was a spectacle and they could take it in on the level that they could understand it. A sort of a master performer, taking them through his world. And just like with Bad Bunny, I think a lot of people were surprised to find that they enjoyed it and that it was they learned something from experiencing it.
And what is the commentary from politicians and other public figures in regards to the performance that you've seen so far?
So much of the commentary has been uninformed and it's been made by people obviously haven't taken the time to get to know Bad Bunny's music or, what he's actually saying in his songs. They're just having a knee-jerk reaction to the idea that an artist who's speaking a language they don't understand, that seems to be from a culture that they don't appreciate, is headlining the biggest stage in pop culture in the moment. And so, I don't have a lot of patience for that kind of knee-jerk reaction. And so I wasn't really clocking exactly what everybody was saying. But, you can look over at Fox News and you could see anchors who were saying things. You could look over on Newsmax and you could see, their top anchor over there was saying, we don't need Bad Bunny or it's a Bad Bunny. Why do they have a Bad Bunny? There were so many people saying so many things that were frankly ill-informed and ignorant. Also politicians. Basically, I think, I saw one pundit sum it up pretty well. Trump seems to think, and the MAGA conservatives who follow him seem to think that football is their cultural landscape. That when you think about sort of the heart of America and the heart of American pop culture, football is part of that. And so they feel personally threatened when a culture that is not one that they feel comfortable with is centered inside that game or centered inside that structure.
Turning Point has come out and said that they plan to do this again next year. What could this mean for future halftime performances?
I feel like in some ways the American public is so divided that people are looking at the same thing and they're seeing drastically different situations. Uh, to me, as a longtime media observer, this Turning Point halftime show is something that is birthed in racism and prejudice and exclusion. Um, Particularly since Jay-Z, the rapper, got involved with helping produce the halftime shows, every halftime performer has been non-white, I think since 2019 or 2020. We've had, I think, 6 straight years where non-white performers have been the feature performers at the halftime show. And I'm sure there are people out there, particularly Trump, particularly MAGA conservatives, who feel some kind of way about that, right? And so now they've decided to build their own halftime because they cannot tolerate sharing the pop culture stage with a culture that they feel is different than theirs. They can't admit or accept that Black culture in America is very close to white culture in America. That we are siblings in a way, and we can learn from and develop with each other. We can make each other stronger. But if one culture insists on being the dominant voice all the time, everywhere, particularly with population levels headed the way they are, it just doesn't make sense. It holds the culture back. The reason why America is such a powerful country is because for a long time it has figured out how to harness the abilities and the advantages and the intellectual and fiscal power of its immigrants. You know, Germans come, Italians come, Irish come, Japanese come, Chinese come, Latin Americans come. Black people were forced to come, but ultimately we made our way. And all of us have added to the success of America. And you know, as odd as it may sound to say this Turning Point's halftime show is a step in the wrong direction. It's trying to deny the power of unity. When you bring all these cultures together, when you share the spotlight with a culture that's not quite like yours, but is culturally and artistically really powerful. You know, I wish the people who would put so much energy into organizing this alternative would put some energy into understanding why it's so important to have a wide diversity of performers on that official Super Bowl halftime stage. My hope is that this Turning Point's halftime show will be recognized for what it is, which is a refuge for bigots and people who can't accept the future. My fear is that because they have this connection to the presidency and because they have this connection to very powerful systems in America, that they'll get enough financial support to just kind of exist and keep reminding us that there's some backwards folks out there who just can't get with the future.